It's amazing that the Parsha of the week always speaks to current events. There was an earthquake yesterday, Sarah, in Tveria, wasn't there?
Yes.
You didn't, and some say in Ashkelon. You didn't feel it? There was an earthquake in Tiberias.
Yes.
Are you aware there's an earthquake in Tveria? Where in the Parsha of the week is there an earthquake? Coinky Dinky? No. By Midbar 26:10. By Midbar 26:10 speaks about an earthquake. That cannot be a Coinky Dinky, Avi. Right? It says, Vatiftach ha'aretz es piyah. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed Korach. The Ramban says it was an earthquake. Are you getting this? From Midbar 26:10. Vatiftach ha'aretz es piyah. The earth opened up its mouth and swallowed the mutineers. Nachmanides says it was an earthquake, but a supernatural earthquake. But here you have it in the Parsha of the week. Pretty amazing.
But the earth closed up after that.
That was the supernatural part of the earthquake. Earthquake, the earth splits open and stays there. But here, the earth, after it quaked and split, what did it do? It closed back up. So it's a supernatural earthquake. But the point I'm making, Mikimia, is that the Parsha of the week always connects to what? Avi, to the current events. Okay, you have the earthquake. Now, it's very interesting. B'nei Korach lo metu. By Midah 26:11, it says the sons of Korach did not die. Why wait 39 years to tell me that? Back in Parshas Korach, it says they all went down to the pit. So why keep me in suspense for what? 39 years. This Parshas Pinchas is 39 years after the mutiny, Dr. Hackett. So why keep me in suspense? B'nei Korach lo metu only now. That's the question on the table. And the answer is, there was another key mutineer that did tshuva, On ben Pelet. He also did tshuva. But what happens to him, Avi? He disappears from history. We don't hear from him. The word on from the word onan. He couldn't stop mourning for himself. He couldn't get beyond his guilt. He was Chava destroyed or wiped out. Maybe the B'nai Korach will go the same way. I don't need thank you. Maybe the B'nai Korach will go the same way. Guilt is necessary when you do tshuva, but you have to move beyond the guilt. On ben Peles couldn't do that. His life was kaput, was over. So the Torah says, let's see how the B'nai Korach will behave. B'nai Korach lo metu, but that only over time. They also felt guilt and shame and regret, but they're able to move on beyond it and wrote the most beautiful Psalms of Tilim. Rosh Hashanah, Sarah, when is the holiest moment Rosh Hashanah? When you blow shofar. Whose Psalm do you read? King David's? Whose Psalm do you read, Avi? B'nai Korach. And when did they write that? After the mutiny, when they did tshuva. So therefore the Torah delays telling us about them. We want to observe their behavior. Don't wallow in the sin. Moving on up, you have to get beyond the sin. We'll talk about that. It ties in beautifully with Rosh Chodesh. It's incredible that this Parsha also speaks about Rosh Chodesh. And we'll get to that in a minute. But I want to make the point over here that the B'nai Korach, God says, I want to observe their behavior. Will they be own? Will they drown in their own self-pity? Or will they able to what? Pull themselves up and moving on up, and write the most beautiful Psalms of Tilim that we say on Rosh Hashanah right before Tekiyat Shofar. That's the question. You got to move on. But wait a minute, Chava, you know Tilim 51. King David, when he sins with Bathsheba, does tshuva, he says, "Echatosi negdi tamid." My sin is always in front of me. King David, didn't you hear my lecture? It's time to move on. How could he say, Masha, how could he say, "V'chatati negdi tamid"? You hear the question on the table, Yonatan?
If it helps you to go on.
Because the sin is now a mitzvah. Hello, you do tshuva me'ahava. what happens to that sin? Becomes a mitzvah, so it's in front of me. It's been recycled. It's been rejuvenated. Chatosi negdi tomid. Because now it's a mitzvah. You do tshuva mehava, the averi becomes a mitzvah. The awesome power of tshuva. The awesome power of tshuva. We're going to bench Rosh Chodesh Av. When? Yura. Soon. What does Av stand for? Elul Ba. I don't want to scare you, but Av, Shelley, stands for Elul Ba. I don't want to panic you, Evelyn, but the Bnei Korach, they went to hell and back. They went to hell and back. We create our own hell, and through tshuva, we create our own what? Gan Eden. This idea that you have to move on and do tshuva is actually found in this week's Parshat of Rosh Chodesh. What's Rosh Chodesh all about? Rosh Chodesh. Bamidbar 28:11. The Torah lists all the Chagim over here, and it starts up with Rosh Chodesh. Bamidbar 28:11. The first mitzvah given to the Jewish people as a nation, David, what was it? You would ask me, I would say Shabbat. I'd say Taras HaMishpacha. I'd say Brit milah. But nobody asked me, Abraham, what was the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people? Rosh Chodesh. It doesn't seem to be that super important, Yonatan. I mean, isn't Shabbat more important? What's so special about Rosh Chodesh, by Midbar 28:11, this week's Parsha, that it's the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people as a people?
We get to control time and set our own.
That's good. That's good. But I think it's more than that. The Jewish people follow a lunar calendar. The moon, blue moon, how to get that in? Right? The moon waxes and wanes. The moon looks like it's swallowed up in blackness. It looks like it's about to be destroyed, kaput, and it keeps what? Who said that? Rejuvenating itself. That's the Jewish people. After Auschwitz, after the pogroms, it looks like we're swallowed up in blackness, Avi, kaput, but we shine again. That's our destiny, to be like the moon. We are the great comeback kid. That's on a physical level, but also on a spiritual level, Chava. The moon waxes and wanes, that you have to move on. But the moon also recedes. It's okay to fail. How do I know that? Because what? If you don't fail, you'll never succeed. If you don't wane, you'll never wax. That's the message of the moon. That's why the Jewish people are compared to what? To the moon. Physically, it looks like we'll be destroyed, so swallowed up by blackness, but we keep coming back. 3 years after Auschwitz, we come back. Nobody comes back. 3 years after Auschwitz, a third of our people were murdered, destroyed. We come back and we build what, Jonathan? The milah of the Middle East, the envy of the Middle East. Leader in high-tech, low-tech, you name it. Israel, 3 years after Auschwitz. Is that normal? That's the moon. We shine again. But it's also true on a spiritual level. Everybody recedes. We all fall. Yerida l'tzorech, Yonatan. Yerida l'tzorech aliyah. How do you say that in Chinese? Yerida l'tzorech aliyah. How do you say that in Chinese? Sometimes you have to go down in order to what? Climb higher. How do I know that? Look at the blue moon. I saw you standing alone. I'm dating myself. That's a beautiful song. What's going on? Isn't that incredible how much God loves us? So therefore we follow a lunar calendar. You fail, nish gefelech. Nicht gefährlich, because you'll rise again. How do I know I will? I follow the moon. That's my destiny. What a message. So therefore, Rosh Chodesh had to be the first mitzvah. Because without the power of chidush, how do you say that in English? Renewal and rejuvenation, we'd be gone physically and spiritually. But the power of the moon gives us the chizuk, the fortitude, the courage to rise despite our sin and become better despite the sin, Yonatan, or because of the sin. You heard what I said? That's the beauty of tshuva contained in the midst of chodesh, which is the same word as chidush. The same word as chidush. That's pretty incredible. Why Rosh Chodesh, the power of chodesh and chidush, is the first mitzvah. Without that, the Jewish people never could have survived Auschwitz, the pogroms, Holocaust, and all the sins that we did. It's only the power of chidush contained in Rosh Chodesh, in the moon, the cycle of the moon, the waxing and the waning. If you don't fail, you'll never succeed. That's the message of the moon. So who's going to take over for the Jewish people? This week's Parshat, by Midbar 27, verse 18. Who takes over, Abraham? Who takes over for Moses? By Midbar 27, 18. Yeshua ben Nun. Why not Pinchas, the great hero who saved the Jewish people, the one of the Shiksabab fame? How come he doesn't? He saved the Jewish people with his act of zealotry. God says so. Wouldn't he be a fitting candidate, Sam, to what? Take over for Moses. Why is he out of the box, and who takes over? Yeshua ben Nun. Hear the question on the table? He was the hero of the moment. Fireworks are spectacular. Do they give much light? The quiet street lamp, dependable, consistent, steady as she goes, low-key. Pinchas was the fireworks. But that fizzles out, and that doesn't give you, Yonatan, much light. Yeshua ben Nun, he was the quiet street lamp, dependable, consistent, low-key. And that's what it takes to be a Jewish leader. He was the one that, when the shiur was over and everybody ran to the lunchroom, he stuck around and collected the books and straightened out the chairs. And therefore he became the leader of the Jewish people. Right? He was low-key, he was dependable, the quiet hero. And that's what you need to be a member of what? A leader of the Jewish people. And therefore Pinchas, he couldn't be the leader. You can't be too much of a kanoi. You can't be too much of a kanoi. And this idea you see in the Haftorah that we're not going to read this Shabbos. We're not going to read the Haftorah this Shabbos, but if it wasn't the 3 weeks, we would. In Haftorah Parshas Pinchas, there's another kanoi there, Eliyahu. The Haftorah Parshas Pinchas, Eliyahu, kanoi kenesi Lashem, the great kanoi, and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu fires him. You know what I said? How do I know? If you look at the Haftorah Pinchas, I don't know what page it is. We're not going to read it this year because of the 3 weeks, but this is the Haftorah officially for Pinchas. And the Haftorah, Yehuda, what page would that be on?
1190.
Thank you. Pinchas, verse 10. He tells God, I have been jealous for you. And he tells God, the Jewish people have abandoned your bris. You ever wonder why Eliyahu Novi has to go to every single bris matter? You don't think that's an inconvenience? For the last 2,800 years, every single... How many bagels and lox can you eat already?
I never read out. I like it.
So Golda, what's going on? Every single bris he has to go to? So the answer is it's a punishment. What does he say in verse 10? Anybody in verse 10? What he says in verse 10?
He said, I have been exceedingly zealous for Hashem. God of legions, for the children of Israel have abandoned your covenant. Stop
right there. The children of Israel have abandoned the bris. God says you'll eat those words. What do you mean the children of Israel have abandoned the bris? You're going to have to go every single bris throughout the centuries to testify, Rabbeinish, that he didn't speak correctly. The Jewish people did not abandon the bris. You're going to be an eyewitness news. And because you bad-mouthed the Jewish people, God says, you're fired. Look at verse 16. Verse 16, you have to anoint Elisha ben Shaphat to be what? The Navi in your place.
That's right.
God doesn't want to hear anything negative about his children. You got something to say, you say it to them. You're speaking about the Jewish people to God, only what? Words of defense and goodness. Which parent wants to hear bad things about the child? Parent knows the child is no good, but you're steching him. You got something to say it to the child. But when you're speaking about the Jewish people, to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, God says, your job is to defend them. And if you can't do that, you're fired. Eliyahu Navi is on Mount Sinai. And God is making thunder and lightning, earthquakes, but God is not in the fire.
No.
God is not in the earthquake.
No.
God's not in the hurricane. God is in Kol Damama Daka. Yonatan. Hello, darkness, my sound of silence. Kol Damama Daka. Isn't that incredible? Kol Damama Daka. Sound of silence. What does that mean? Again, God doesn't want fireworks. If you want to reach people, you have to speak what? Softly. Sound of silence. That's why Kodesh Baruch Hu is found. Therefore, Eliyahu got fired. Pinchas could not be the leader of the Jewish people.
So he became Elijah.
Yeshua ben Nun, the quiet type, the strong, silent type. Strong, silent type. What a powerful message of the Haftorah that we're not going to read. Okay?
Thank you for that, Rabbi.
You're very welcome. Now, getting back to the Parshat. Getting back to the Parshat. By Midbar 28, there are only 3 types of animals that you can bring on the Mizbeach. You know, a giraffe is kosher. I'm not joking. A giraffe is kosher. A deer is kosher. Why? A giraffe chews its cud and has split hoofs. A giraffe is kosher.
Yes, it is.
So is a deer. Rashi deals with that. And by Midbar 28, by Midbar 28:19, Rashi wonders, see that? What do you bring in on Mizbeach? The cow bull family, the ram family, the ram goat family, and the sheep family. Only that.
Thank goodness.
Why not giraffes? So Rashi says, you know why? Parim keneged Abraham. Abraham did a great mitzvah with the cow family. After his bris milah, he was old and sick. Despite his pain, he ran to the barn and he shechted what? A young bakar, egel, and he gave them what, pastrami sandwiches? No, he gave them tongue on rye with mustard, right? So he did a mitzvah with the cow bull family. So he sanctified that. So therefore, you bring a cow bull on the Mizbeach. Because Avram did a great mitzvah with that. Despite his pain and suffering, he treated the malachim to tongue on rye.
Truly.
Delicious with mustard. Why a ram? Because Yitzchak Avinu did a mitzvah, the ram of Isaac. Right, David? He was going to be the ram, and instead, HaKadosh Baruch Hu stopped him, and he said, you bring a ram instead. So since Yitzchak did a mitzvah with the ram of Isaac, so therefore that became sanctified. So therefore, what do you bring on the Mizbeach? Ram.
What about the goat?
Sheep, goat. That's the next one. Don't rush me. Sheep and goats. Because sheep, the next species is sheep and goats. Why? Because Yaakov Avinu was a wheeler dealer with the sheep and goats. So what kind of mitzvah Yaakov do with the sheep and goats? I understand the bakar of Abraham. The mitzvah he did despite his pain and suffering. I understand the ram of Isaac, the Akedah. But Yaakov Avinu, because he was a wheeler dealer in the sheep and the goat business, what kind of mitzvah is that? That too deserves a korban on the Mizbeach.
Business.
So, business is business.
Yeah, but business has to be.
So, my Rebbe Rapam Zatzal said, Dr. Hackett, who was Yaakov dealing with the sheep and goat business? Bernie Madoff. I mean, he was dealing with Lavan. If you're dealing with the Bernie Madoffs and the Lavans on the world, I'm going to be a friar, David. They're all swindling and cutting corners. How do you say friar in English?
Sucker.
Yaakov had a strong temptation not to be a sucker. I'm dealing with Lavan. They're all cheating and swindling. I'm going to be a straight arrow. What am I, a schnook? He overcame that temptation and he remained honest. That is a Mesiras Nefesh mitzvah on the level of what? The ram of Isaac. David, you getting this? To remain honest in business. When you are dealing with the Madoffs and the Lavan, he made off, right? And to remain honest, that is a temptation. As great as the Akedas Yitzchak, and that too deserves what? A karban on the Mizbeach. So therefore, no giraffes and no deer, but these three species. What a powerful message. Powerful message that the Torah is teaching us. What? Zebra's not kosher, but a giraffe is. What?
That's why they call Yaakov Emet.
They call Yaakov what? Titan Em. Oh, beautiful. The prophet Micha, thank you, Dr. Hackett. The prophet Micha says, Titan Emet Yaakov. Bueno, beautiful. Yitzchak and Avraham were not Emet, but they didn't have to struggle with that. That wasn't their test. Every person has their test, Shirley. Can I have your fingerprints? Just like my fingerprints are unique, my test in life is unique. Each one had a struggle with their test. And Yaakov's test was in what? In Emet or not, because he was tempted. He had a brother, a swindler. He had an uncle, a swindler. I say swindler in Yiddish. I mean in English. A swindler. And he had a temptation to be a swindler. How do you say swindler in English? Swindler. Thank you. So that's a test, and therefore, Titan Emet LeYaakov. Every one of us has a tailor-made test that we have to struggle with. And what's our tafkid? We shall overcome. And it's not easy.
No kidding.
You tell me about it, right? Everyone knows their test in life. That is the message what that the Torah is teaching me over here. Powerful message. Now, in this week's Parshat, the Torah tells us about the daughters of Tzlafchad. Remember him? He died with no sons, and they say, we want Yerusha. We want our father's Yerusha. Right? By Midbar 27.
Yeah.
By Midbar 27. Right? By Midbar 27. Verse 1. It gives their yichus. Tzlafchad, they come from Tzlafchad, Ben Chefer, Ben Menashe, Ben Yosef. Now, Sarah, who doesn't know that Menashe is the son of what? Yosef. Ask any little kid, he'll tell you. Rashi wonders, there are no extra words in the Torah. Why tell us that these girls come from Menashe, the son of Yosef? Who doesn't know that Menashe Avi is what? So Rashi says, where did these girls get the love of Eretz Yisrael? Where did they get it? The men said, let's appoint a captain and go back to Mitzrayim. What did the girls say? Goodbye. We want Pisgat Zev. I mean Ashkelon. The women loved Eretz Yisrael. And therefore the decree of death, the entire generation between 20 and 60 died out in the 40 years of the wandering. He goes, only the men, Yonatan, it was only the men. The women didn't die. Because the worst sin the Jewish people ever committed, the golden calf and the spies, women were not involved in either one. So there were 600,000 widows that crossed into Pisgat Zev. The shotguns had their hands full. So Rashi points out that these girls inherited their love of Eretz Yisrael, Chava, from their great-grandpa Joseph. Teach your children well. Who remembers that song? Come on. Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Thank you. Teach your children well. Joseph taught his children and grandchildren well to love Pisgat Zev. I mean to love Eretz Yisrael. So they inherited that in their DNA. DNA, Yonatan, divine natural ability. How do you say that in Chinese? DNA. Divine natural ability. You got to teach your children to love Eretz Yisrael. And Brother Joseph did that. And not just his children, his grandchildren as well. So these girls learned well to love the land of Israel. Moshe was stumped. He didn't know the halacha. If there are no brothers, what happens to the Yerusha? He was stumped. Rashi says something incredible. So he asked God. So God says, Cain b'noi slavcha dovrot, 27:7. Hope the English translates correctly. Bamidbar 27:7. What does God say about their claim? Cain b'noi slavcha dovrot. You know how you say that in English? God says, right on, girls. I'm not joking. Remember that expression, right on? God says, right on, girls. I love your claim. And they only asked for their father's possession. God says, Nosoin Titein. In Bamidbar 27:7, God says, Noton Titein. You see how they translate that in English, Abraham? 27:7.
Like you shall.
Can you read that verse, 27:7?
Where does this speak properly?
No, it means right on, girls. Go ahead.
You shall surely give them possession.
It doesn't say that in my book.
Of inheritance.
Noton titain lehem. Give and give them again. Why can't they translate properly, Yonatan? Why? Noton titain lehem. Give them and give them again. Says Rashi, they only want their father's possession. God says, give them grandpa's possession as well.
All right.
Right on, girls. Noton titain. Give them their father's and also their grandfather's possession in Eretz Yisrael. Rashi makes an amazing comment over here. These girls, were they prophets? They were Beis Yaakov girls, maybe Beis Rivka girls. They were not prophets. Moses was the greatest prophet who ever lived. Rashi says in Pasuk Zion, Shera'ata einon mashaloa einon shel Moshe. These girls saw more clearly God's mind. What's God's mind? The Torah. Better than Moses. They knew that they're supposed to get the Yerusha, even though Moses didn't know. So Rashi makes an amazing comment that these plain girls, not prophets, Jewish seminary girls from Har Nof, no, I'm in the Midbar Sinai seminary, saw more clearly than Moshe Rabbeinu. Because women are more godlike. Women are more godlike, even though they're not prophets. Therefore, Abi, the word neshama, the word shechina, the word Torah, the word mitzvah are all feminine. The word shechina is feminine. Amazing Rashi. Rashi should know he only had daughters. Women are more in touch with God. Therefore, throughout Tanakh, who names the children? Mother. Because Nachmanides and Beinu B'chai say that a name in Hebrew is not the Tom, Dick, or Harry. It's subconscious Ruach HaKodesh, the tafkid of that child. And women are more qualified to look at that child and identify the tafkid because they're more in touch with their neshama. Therefore, throughout Tanakh, who names the children? It's the mothers. They're more in touch with their godly soul.
Not to mention the baby inside their womb.
What?
Not to mention the baby inside their womb.
That's right. Nachon. So therefore, women make a bracha. Shasani kirtzono. We say shalo asani isha. We say that because the Gemara bracha says the worst pain in the world is the pain of childbirth. I haven't got time for the pain. We couldn't take that pain. So we thank God that we're not a woman, we couldn't suffer like that. She makes the bracha, Shasani Kirtzono. What does that mean?
Maybe like I am.
You made me the way you are. No, you see, you can't trust the English. You got to know Hebrew. Shasani Kirtzono. You made me exactly the way he is.
She is.
Kirtzono. His will, his personality. Well, God is both. You know, God is both. He's the absolute unity. God is both. Therefore, sometimes he's called feminine, Shekhinah, and sometimes the masculine, because he's the absolute unity. And therefore, getting married is the first mitzvah in the Torah. Are you sitting down? Why is getting married the first mitzvah in the Torah? Shirley. Where do you have the word echad again in the Torah? One more time. Husband, what? Beautiful. Koinky dinky, the word is only used twice. Man shall marry woman. So the Zohar says, only when man and woman come together right now, physically, only then can they appreciate Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Are you listening to this? Wow. Therefore, it's the first mitzvah in the Torah to make love to your wife. Because only when that happens can you appreciate his Echad. Isn't that incredible? Therefore, Ish, husband, has a Yud. And Isha, wife, has what? Hey, that's God's name. There's a third partner in this marriage. Who says three's a crowd? Not in a Jewish marriage, it ain't. You take away the Yud and you take away the Hey from Isha, what are you left with? Fire, God forbid. So therefore, getting married is the first mitzvah in the Torah. The marital act is the first mitzvah in the Torah, because it only then, says Zohar, can you appreciate Hashem Echad when you become Labasar Echad. Isn't that incredible? And therefore the Zohar goes further. You have a Shir Hashirim, is the passionate love song between God and the Jewish people. But if you read the text, Avi, it's pretty graphic. So if it's a love story between God and the Jewish people, why not say so? Why write it as a graphic, detailed, erotic love between a man and woman? If it's really about what? Now, why go like this when you can go, Shirley? You had a question on the table, the Zohar asked? Shir Hashirim is Kodesh Kadoshim. Rabbi Kiva says that the holiest books in the Bible is what? Shir Hashirim. Kodesh Kadoshim. It's a passionate love between God and the Jewish people. So why don't you say so, Shirley? Why do you have to disguise it and masquerade it as an erotic, graphic love between man and woman when it's really about what? Reb Nachum? About what? You had a question on the table, Shelley? Says the Zohar. You're sitting down? Because only when a man and woman physically and passionately make love to each other, only then can they be madly in love with the one above. Should I repeat that? It's only when a man and a woman experience physical, erotic, passionate love between each other, only then can they graduate to be madly in love with the one above. So therefore the Shir Hashirim, which is about the love of God and the Jewish people, has to be written as a passionate, erotic, physical love between man and woman, because only when you experience that, only then can you be madly in love with the one above, which is the highest calling the human being can reach, says Rambam. To be passionately in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but you can only attain that when you're passionately in love with your spouse. Isn't that incredible, Chava? Therefore, it's the first mitzvah in the Torah. Therefore, it's the first mitzvah in the Torah. Are you getting this? It's just amazing that the Gemara in Shabbos says, when a person dies, the trial begins. The trial begins with 3 questions, and then we go on. What are the 3 questions? Were you honest in business? Did you have a set time to study Torah every day? Did you make love to your spouse? Should I repeat that? Yeah. Now, I would think of a lot of questions. I understand, Kavaitim LaTorah. Then the trial begins. But those are the 3 preliminary questions. Gemara and Shabbos. Were you honest in business? Did you set aside every day to study Torah? And were you involved with your spouse in the marital act of making love? Those are the three questions that a person's asked. So you have to get married. Otherwise, it's not kosher then. You have to get married. Therefore, it's called Kiddushin. Now, there's an amazing Tosfot in Tractate Chagiga, page 2. You could look it up, Avi. You have to get married, Avi. You have to get married. Tosfos Chagiga, Daf Bet, Omid Bet. The Tosfos says that every time a husband and wife are engaged in a marital act, even though it does not result in the birth of a child, they still get the mitzvah approval. Tosfos Chagiga Daf Bet, side 2. Every time husband and wife come together in Kiddusha B'Tahara, even though a child is not born, because maybe they're too old, they still get the mitzvah period of Arivia. Now Tosfos said it, Chava, you can take it to the bank. The Ben Ish Chai, based on this Tosfot, says something incredible. That when husband and wife are engaged in a marital act according to halacha, even though it doesn't result in the birth of a physical baby, they're creating neshamas and shamayim. Isn't that incredible? So every time you're intimate with your spouse, even though it doesn't create a physical baby, you're creating neshama. How do you say neshama? You're creating souls in heaven. Ben Ish Chai said it. And after 120, Mama, Papa, all of these neshamas, even though there was no physical baby. So says the Ben Ish Chai. Ben Ish Chai, And if
you do it not to Kedusha, then you're creating...
so now Yehuda Lev says, where there's great... Why is a sexual sin one of the worst sins? Sexual sin. Because where there's potential for great Kiddusha, there's potential for great Tumah. Because the sex act, if it's done properly, is called Kiddushin, so therefore when it's abused, it's such a terrible sin. How come there's so many churches on Mount Zion? How come there are no churches in Las Vegas? Why there's so many churches on Mount Zion? Where there's great Kiddusha, the forces of Tumah, they're what they call circling the wagons. So since the sex act done properly is Kiddushin, so therefore if it's done improperly, it's one of the worst sins a person can do. Where there's great Kiddusha, there's potential for great Tumah. There's got to be this constant, what's it called, Chava? Tension? Tension. Right? Tension. Right? When the going gets tough, the tough get going or they go shopping. Right? So you make the call, right? Very interesting. Now here, incredible. Bamidbar 26:16. Strange verse. Here the Torah gives a census of the children of God. And one of the families is called Ozni. Ozni. Rashi makes a very strange comment. Bamidbar 26, verse 16. One of the families of God, this is a census, the family is called Ozni. You have that, Jonathan? Why should I care what they're called? The Torah is GPS, it's God's personal system, it's not history. And Rashi makes a bizarre comment, saying, you ain't got Rashi there, but Rashi says, I say that this family had another name. Ozni had a name, Etzbone. Remember Clark Kent, Superman? Rashi, what are you talking about? Who cares what their name was? You have that over there? Rashi says, Omer Ani. Very rarely Rashi says that. I say that this family, Ozni, had another name. They're called Etzbone. So, Baruch, why should I care? Torah is GPS, God's personal system. Who cares what they were called? Are you sitting down? My Rebbe Rapam Zatzal said something. You just came to hear this. Now hear this. The word Ozni is from the word Ozen. And the word Etzbone is from the word Etzba. If you hear Lashon Hara, stick it in your ear. You hear what Rashi is saying? Oh yeah, Ozni, Ozen. a juicy piece of Lashon Hara. You're tempted. Take your etzba and stick it in your ozen. How profound Rashi is. Otherwise, who should care what they're called? And the Torah gives me a census. Why should I care? Look at Bamidbar 26, verse 41 and verse 42. It gives me the census. From 3,300 years ago. Avi, why is it important? The Torah only tells you what I need to know for the year 2018. So to answer this question, Avi, we will ask another. See, Bamidbar 26:41, it gives the census of the tribe of Benjamin, and right next to it in verse 42, the census of the tribe of Dan. Now, all the others are given in chronological order of their birth. All of a sudden here the Torah deviates, Chava. Benjamin was the youngest kid. Dan was one of the older children. Why put them what? Together. What's it all about? Let's think. 240 years before this, Yaakov's family came down. 240 years before this. Benjamin came down with 10 healthy children. Dan, one of the older brothers, had one child who was sick. He was deaf and dumb. How do you think he must have felt, Sarah? My little kid brother with the runny nose has 10 healthy children. And he, one of the older brothers, has one son that's born sick. You think it didn't stech him? How do you say that in English, Jonathan? You think it didn't stech him? But little did he know that 240 years later, Benjamin's 10 sons would give him 45,000 grandchildren from 10 children. Dan, with one sick child, didn't have 45,000 grandchildren. He had 64,000 grandchildren. Took a lot of Viagra. Spirulina too, I guess. But what's the message? You can't second guess God. Dan had no way of knowing that 240 years later, his one sick child would give him 64,000 grandchildren, and his kid brother with the runny nose from 10 healthy children only had how many, Chava? 45,000. There's a message for us today. Why my child was born sick and he passed away. I don't know why, but there's a plan. That's the Torah speaking to me. And any person that has a tragedy in his life, there's a plan. You don't believe me? Look at Benjamin and Dan. How do you think Dan felt? But we're here for such a short time. Dan didn't live, if he would have lived to 240 years later, he wouldn't have been upset. But Yonatan, things are always going according to plan. Not my plan, his plan. This is the message of the senses. Otherwise, why tell me about it? Why tell me about it? Powerful. Let's go to the beginning of the Parshat. Talk about current events. Current events. I didn't forget. Bamidbar 25, verse 15. The Torah names who was the princess that seduced Zimri. 25:15. Her name was Cosby, not Bill Cosby. Cosby Bastur. Now, why should I care what her name was, Yisrael Baruch? Why should I care? Rashi wonders by Midbar 25:15. Why name her? Says Rashi something incredible. To teach the hatred that the PLO has to us. She was the daughter of a king. Normally a person would die to defend the honor of his daughter. The king of the PLO sent his own daughter to prostitute and destroy herself, if that's what it takes to what? To murder Jews. Is Rashi prophetic? Who are we dealing with? Who are we making gestures and concessions to? Rashi says, they hate you more than they love their own children. It sounds to me like Abu Mamzer and company. Where in the mourning tent, the mother of the murdered terrorist says she wishes that all of her children would get killed if that's what it takes to murder Jews. How did Rashi know this in the year 1040? Hello?
It's always been like that.
It's incredible, Rashi. The king sent his daughter to destroy herself, knowing she'd get killed and prostitute herself. So what? As long as she can take a Jew with her. That's who we're negotiating. A new peace plan. I think God will trump the plan. So we have to know who we're dealing with. And that's why the Torah mentions who she is. Now, Pinchas, by Midbar 25:11, by Midbar 25:12, he did an act of violence. God gives him the peace prize. Does it make any sense, Dr. Hackett? He did an act of violence, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him 25:12. I give him the Nobel Peace Prize for being violent. You had a question on the table. Why does he get a peace prize for doing an act of violence? Look at the word shalom. The word shalom is written with the vav ibegahak. How do you say that in English? Broken. Now here you don't see it so good. I don't know, you see it good there? In a Sefer Torah, it's really broken. Now normally, Sarah, if you have a broken letter in the Sefer Torah, the whole Sefer Torah, $60,000, it's possible. Here, God told Moses, if you don't write the vav, then it's possible. What's it all about?
Is there any other letter like that?
No. Every other letter like that, puzzle, $65,000 down the drain. Here, Halacha l'Moshe Messinai, Shirley, God told him to write the vav, dafke broken. And if you don't write it that way, then it's what? Puzzle. What's it all about? I'm telling you, current events, Avram. Sometimes to achieve true peace, you've got to break the phony peace. Phony peace process. In order to attain genuine peace, first you've got to break the phony peace process. The illusion of the Oslo illusion. Fake news. The broken vav, to achieve true shalom, you have to break the phony peace process. Otherwise, you'll never have shalom. And that's why God awarded him the peace prize. That's why the vav is written this way. If only our fearless leaders, Yonatan, would study the Parsha of the week, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in. Instead of taking out the terrorists, we shoot at their empty cars. Is it sick? It's like Chelam. We warn the terrorists, please, we don't want to hurt you. Please get out of your car. And then they shoot a missile on the empty car. I mean, who are you dealing with? If only our leaders would study what? The Parsha. Now the Torah gives all of the Chagim. All of the Chagim here in this Parsha. The Chagim are all mentioned. What's God's favorite holiday? By Midbar 29:35. By Midbar 29:35. What's God's favorite holiday? How do I know? Achron Chaviv. Yonatan, when does the Viennese table come at a dinner? Viennese table?
The end.
The end. Why? Saving the best for last. You know, life is short. You have to begin with dessert because you never know. But Shmini Atzeres is the last of the Chagim. It's God's favorite. According to my great-great-grandfather, Nei Yisachar, all of the Chagim, including Yom Kippur, is only a build-up to what? Shmini Atzeres. Shmini Atzeres. And only by Shmini Atzeres it says the Yisa Ach Sameach. Doesn't say it here, Parshas Emor. Ach Sameach. All the other Chagim, they're limited by time. You sit in the sukkah today, shake a lulav today, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, all of the Chagim are limited by time. Which Chag is not limited by time? Shmini Atzeres, Yisa'ach Someach. What does that mean? Simcha. That is not like a lulav and esrog or sukkah. We're supposed to be joyous and rejoice in HaKadosh Baruch Hu all year round. Therefore, of all the Chagim, when do you kiss and hug the Torah and dance with the Torah? Only Shmini Atzeres. Why not on Shavuos? Why Simchas Torah? Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah. Rashi, with Shmini Atzeres, Rashi quotes the Midrash. God says, we spent such a wonderful month together. Rosh Hashanah, Seres Yemei Tshuva, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. It's like a king invited his children to feast. And then, pack your bags and ready to go. It's time to go home. God says, I plead with you. Stay with me one more day. I can't bear to be without you, my dear kids. Shmini Atzeres. Shmini Atzeres. The 8th day comes, you're packing your bags. Remember that song? I'm ready to go. God says, Atzor, please don't leave me. I can't bear to be without you. But wait a minute. Shmini Atzeres will be over. So God will make the same plea again, won't he? What does he gain? One more day. We're going to pack our bags to Shmini Atzeres and go home. So therefore, Shmini Atzeres, we dance and kiss and hug the Torah. The Torah is what? God's mind. Tractate Shabbos 109. The Torah is God's mind. So we're saying, God, we're not leaving you. We have you all year long. We kiss and hug you. We take you with us. We're going home to Pisgat Zev, Tzfat, Ashkelon. But God, we're not leaving you. We'll never leave you. We have you in the Torah. So therefore, that's the only Chag that we want. Kiss and hug the Torah. This is our reply. God only makes that plea on Shmini Atzeres. Don't leave me. What do we say? We're not leaving you. Because we have the Torah. We have you. So we never part from you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's why, that's our reply, and therefore you only kiss and hug and dance with the Torah on Shmini Atzeres, because God only makes that plea when? Not on Shavuos. Yes, you had a question?
Well, that's just for one day. It's not for the whole year.
No, you see, good thing you came today. B'nai Yisachar, my great-great-grandpa says, no. Yisa'ach Sameach, you're supposed to take that joy with you all year. The lulav and esrog is not all year. Shofar is all year. But the simcha, you take that with you. What's the simcha? That we have God all the time. Every time we open up a Torah, who's speaking to us? When we daven, we're speaking to Him. And we study Torah, He is what? Speaking to us. So that joy never leaves us. And therefore Shmini Atzeres is the greatest of all Chagim, because it's not bound by time. It's not restricted to place or time. It's Kiddushas Haguf, the sanctity of being joyful. Ivdos Hashem b'simcha. Ivdos Hashem b'simcha. Serve God in joy. That's the message of Shmini Atzeres. That's the message of Shmini Atzeres. On Sukkot, one of the Chagim is Sukkot, there's Nisach HaMayim. I'll close with this. I think it's important. The water libation. The Mishnah says in Sukkah, whoever didn't see the water libation never saw joy in his life. Sukkah Perik Hay. What's the big deal, Sarah? You take a little bit of Wasser and you pour it on the altar. They all went wild with joy. The great rabbis became jugglers and clowns. Remember the Ed Sullivan show? The Mishnah says the greatest rabbis became jugglers and clowns, juggling torches. What's the big deal? You take a little water and you pour it where? What's the great joy? You know, we got 2 Torahs. Yishalmi Peah says of the 2 Torahs, which is more beloved to Hashem? The oral, because the written Torah is written on parchment. The oral Torah is written, I've got you under my skin. My skin is more precious than animal skin. So therefore God loves the oral Torah more than the written, because it's written on my skin, on my neshama. Nisach HaMayim is not found anywhere in the written Torah. Even other oral Torahs, there's a hint here, a hint there. Nisach HaMayim b'chag, the water libation on Sukkot, has absolutely no reference at all in the written Torah. It is kuloi what? Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's the great simcha. Torah Sheba'al Peh is more precious to Hashem. And this is the only law. Other Torah Sheba'al Peh have a remez. How do you say a remez in English? A hint. A letter here, a letter there, a kvetch here. This is totally nothing to do with the written Torah. It doesn't say anywhere in the written Torah that on Sukkot you have to what? Pour water on the altar. This is strictly Torah Sheba'al Peh. Therefore, such great joy. Because Torah Sheba'al Peh is the lovey-dovey talk between God and the Jewish people. The written Torah, Billy Graham can read too. But the oral Torah is the secret lovey-dovey talk between God and the Jewish people. The Zohar says it's like when two lovers have intimate talk. You want the rest of the world to know. You know, pet names, Cupcake. Remember Cupcake? Or Lamb Chop. It's the intimate lovey-dovey talk between two lovers. We don't want Billy Graham to know it. It's you and me and you. Torah Sheba'al Peh. And this is strictly Torah Sheba'al Peh. Nisach HaMayim b'chag. And therefore it's what? The greatest joy. Sunday we have a class, Soaring Through Sorrow. How you can soar through sorrow. Sunday at 2. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.